Warning. This following episode contains subject matter that may be sensitive to some. Listener discretion is strongly advised. You're listening to Until They Sleep, a podcast where two parents finally get to sit down and discuss all the different things that run through their heads every day because their 4 kids are finally asleep. Thanks for listening. Okay, so based on everything that we already talked about, I wanted to just kind of recap the John List murders. This is
Which one's that guy?
The second dad who murdered his family and then disappeared for decades.
Can you specify? Oh, okay. The reset one.
The one that you believe killed his family as a reset purpose.
Yeah.
So I do have some more specifics about him to kind of help maybe you understand and anybody listening who doesn't know the story understand.
I don't need to understand him. He's a piece of shit.
He didn't remarry right away, so it wasn't like this reset where you were saying that, he just wanted to go on with his life. Well, yes, but in what I kept reading, and again, I'll post notes about this in the show and the episode details, he was actually diagnosed in his psychological profile. He was a obsessive compulsive personality who felt there were only 2 solutions to his financial problems. Either he could accept welfare and embarrass his family, opening ridicule against his authoritarian teachings, or protect them from all of this and send them to heaven. This is what he believed were the only ways. And of course, welfare was not an option because he was proud and he didn't want his family to be seen in less than a perfect light. So he felt that the only way was to send them to heaven, and that the reason he didn't commit suicide, this is what came out in what they were learning about him, was because he believed that he would still be able to see them in heaven because it was a mercy killing.
If you're expecting feedback from me, you're not going to get anything else.
That's fine. I'm just letting you know that that's what the psychological profile of him.
That's what the excuse was. That's what a psychiatrist's excuse for him doing that shit was. That's what that is.
Okay. Well, that's what came out, and I just wanted to say that's what it was. So, but ultimately,
that's what they thought it was.
Well, that's true because we don't know if he was lying, right? He had years to think of that excuse, correct?
Yeah. I mean, how many fucking years did it go? It
was
70s?
18 years before he was caught.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, it's completely possible that he could have made up that story for his defense. But what I mean,
we were talking about like those cases, and we talk about those cases and everything that happens, and people have psychologists, and they make it. I guess it comes down to who has a better attorney.
You think it's who has a better attorney?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why criminal defense lawyers exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to
you get what you pay for.
Mental health, what snaps in a man's brain that makes him do these crazy things, whether it's to commit suicide or to annihilate his family?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I haven't done it yet. I'll let you know once I do it. If I get to that point,
Can't we just think about it and discuss it? Why do you have to do it?
There's a lot of different opinions. Everybody has a different point of view, right? So I'm over here disagreeing with everything you're saying because I don't believe it. I think it's a bullshit excuse, whatever the lawyers or psychiatrists are saying about them. Meanwhile, you're giving the psychologists and what those people are saying credit. Because you're like, oh, well, they believe on this, and then this is their conclusion.
I'm not giving them credit.
The way that you came across and what you said, yeah, that's how it came to me. So that's why I'm just like, I have nothing more to say about that guy because I think that, I think it's just, like I said, it's just justified by what you believe in, right? So he said because he believes that he's going to see him in the afterlife for doing that. Mm-hmm. But we all know that most religion always tells you that the moment you take a life, you're expelled from your heaven.
But this is about mental health. So is the
exactly mental health. So they're mental for believing in something that they've been taught since they were little kids about afterlife or religion.
Okay, so like the same idea with like terrorists who
they kill a whole bunch of people because they believe that their God tells them to do it, right?
That they're going to go to heaven,
infidels, right?
Yeah, that they're going to go to heaven and receive all these virgins, right? Then they believe this so much that they, are willing to sacrifice themselves. And then I heard the case.
How do they get those guys to believe in that?
Because they tell them they're going to have a bunch of virgins waiting for them in heaven.
Yeah.
So I recently heard about the John Lennon murder and the explanation about the guy who did this and his mental health issues. That he'd been suffering with mental health issues since he was a child due to extreme abuse in his household.
Was John Lennon the one beating him?
No.
Did John Lennon look like the father or the person that beat him?
No, he felt that John Lennon was a hypocrite and he had disrespected God.
Okay.
And that it was his way of protecting the children of the world from the hypocrisy of John Lennon. Because of the song Imagine. And then he's like, he says all this, but he lives on a yacht and he has a penthouse and he has all this money, but yet he talks about... So he felt that he was a hypocrite. He believed that God wanted him to... But he didn't feel
like going to any political person or any...
No, he felt...
cultural leader or any religious leader.
No, he felt it was his duty to get rid of John Lennon. So this is a mental health issue. Like,
I thought the guy that killed John Lennon was a big fan of
he
John
was
Lennon's.
A fan. He was a Beatles fan growing up. But for some reason, when this particular song came out, whatever was going on in his life at that time, wherever his mind was at that time, it flipped. His switch just flipped, and he decided that it was on him to take him out. So this is now going back to childhood trauma. So childhood trauma that affects men, not just dads, but affects men into these adults that they grow up. And some men can deal with it and some men can't. And that goes back to personality. So going back to the original conversation where I brought up the different personality traits, what about those personality traits or lack of personality traits or weak personality traits create this weakness in men's minds that they cannot protect and provide for their families and decide that someone's out to get them?
That's crazy that you say that, because I think at any moment men actually feel like that, right? And we feel that we can't provide what's necessary for our families. Most men, I would say like a big percentage of men, we have moments that things get rough or tough, or something needs to get fixed in the house, or birthday parties are coming up, or the holidays, or anything like that. And that's when we start thinking about I can't provide for my family. I can't give them everything they want or everything they need. Like, he needs braces, he needs shoes, he needs clothes and a car, or I need to fix the car, or I need to buy, we can tell by our own experience, right? So there's moments when men will feel like that. But can you imagine if every man, every time went through that situation, that we're so freaking weak that we end up having to go, just kill somebody because we think they're a hypocrite, or kill our families because it's justified because, I couldn't keep on feeding them, so I just killed them.
Well, but I guess that speaks to the difference between a man who hurts someone, by the most extreme version of pain,
right?
Of killing their family members or killing themselves, versus those who just leave, right?
Right.
So many men just leave.
Yeah, they go buy milk and they never come back.
And they never come back, right?
Or a pack of smokes.
They go and they leave and they never come back. And now, even though they might not have physically murdered their families, they've emotionally murdered them. The children felt abandoned. If there was strife with the wife, I mean, that's understandable, where the wife's like, just get out, I don't want you here anymore.
Right.
But what if there wasn't? What if the wife didn't see it coming?
Well, I guess that's one of the things when you think about it, and then if you're a person that might have full cup, right? Have full cup or half empty cup, right? Like we were talking about previously. Mm-hmm. I guess if you're one of those people that think about it, you're like, well, at least he didn't kill us, so I'm thankful that he left because he could have killed us. So is that
that's true?
Yeah. So you start thinking like that.
I mean, most people don't think like that, but
they don't, right?
Most people don't ever.
I'm sure they
that
will.
never crosses their mind.
Yeah, I'm sure they would once they start. I mean, it's everywhere now.
Unless it was an abusive relationship, right?
Yeah.
So if it was an abusive relationship,
but then a lot of the people that weren't in abusive relationships, and then the partner that was the abuser leaves, they start realizing, like, yeah, but it's so much better without them here. You know? Sometimes they end up getting a worse abuser down the road.
Yeah, that's true because of their own mental patterns, and that's a different.
So I have this one thing where we're supposed to be talking about mental health, and we're going away off the subject, and I'm kind of laughing about it. I mean, it's connected. Because of what men do and weak minds and religious point of views or political point of views or whatever the fuck they think is right. We all have our way of seeing things and dealing with things.
But my whole thing was connecting it to personality.
Yeah, personalities. They're all weak. So there's a connection. They're fucking victims, full of excuses. People that they're weak. They're weak and they want to feel empowered by taking out other people that are weaker than them. That's my point of view. All I wanted to say was that there's a percentage of males that struggle with mental health. They're saying that 1 in 10 of men experience depression or anxiety, but less than half will ever receive treatment. And more than 4 times as many men as women die by suicide every year.
Yeah.
So then the ones that don't get treated end up committing suicide, or, in what you're saying, end up being serial killers or family killers.
Or maybe they're the guys who are homeless on the streets.
And the other percentage is becoming homeless. So.
Okay. But is there anything that can be done to better those numbers?
Who knows? I mean, the thing is, it's up to them, right? A lot of times, it's like not everybody's going to be helping out. And more people try to help, but it's up to them to. I mean, if you're talking about mental health, then I guess there's mental doctors for that. So then the first step is going to go see these people, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if you don't have insurance, it's not available, right?
Well,
a lot of times, and even then, you have to wait for a recommendation from your primary.
Yeah, in about 2-3 months to get an appointment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so then
they make it near impossible.
Okay, so then it comes back to the other route, right? That I was saying, like, there's money to send to other countries, but you can't take care of the issues that are here.
Yeah.
And that's one of the major issues, right?
Is mental health. Not just for the dad. Okay, so in that...
For men. We're talking about men,
I know,
right?
in men. But where did that mental health issues come from?
From the age of 12 to 17, 15% of youth report suffering from at least one major depressive episode.
But why?
In a year.
What's causing that?
Yeah, you tell me.
Okay.
You tell me.
What's causing? It's
I don't know. Being sexually abused.
Being sexually abused.
Physically abused.
Being
drugged.
Abused. Being abused by parents or some other.
Being abused by friends
someone
at school,
that's trusted. Someone
weak,
who's trusted.
Using drugs.
Why are they weak though?
Because they're just weak. Maybe because they're mama's boys. Maybe because they're daddy's boys. Maybe because nobody puts enough attention to them. Maybe because they're poor. Maybe because they're rich but they don't have love. Maybe because they got cut from the football team or the baseball team or whatever. Maybe because the girl that they like said no. Maybe because...
But usually when...
Everybody, if you think about it, all these people that usually end up with something like that, they always have some excuse like that.
Well, but, okay, going back just to men in general and those who commit suicide. So you were talking about earlier about military, right? They come back... They feel nobody loves them or that nobody needs them. They have their demons that they return with. And no matter what a family member does or a group of family tries to help them, some of them still don't make it.
It's one of those things, you know, it's like maybe they feel like they're just talking out of their ass because they can't relate to them. They don't understand what they're going through.
But is that a weakness of mind and personality then on the soldiers, on the veterans' part?
Yeah, because they don't think, like, you have no right to tell me or try to advise me because you haven't been in my shoes. You haven't done what I've done.
Okay.
So your opinion doesn't mean jack.
But if you're in a destructive pattern where you're imploding on yourself and your family.
But see, it depends on what you did. Because if you're trained to be something destructive and now you're being brought to the world where you can't be destructive anymore, how are you supposed to control that?
Well, I mean, if they trained you to be like that, can't you be trained to not be like that again?
Okay,
Can that be untrained?
They don't do that, right?
That's true. They don't untrain you.
No, they don't. They just
send you back.
And then it's up to society to get untrained.
For you to figure out how to be part of society again. Like guys who get out of jail, right?
Or try to go to,
Guys who've been in jail a bunch of times.
But most guys know how to control it. Most guys know how to turn it off. And they try not. And they don't end up hurting other people, right? Mm-hmm. But then, instead of hurting other people, they hurt themselves. Right,
in one way or another, even if they don't commit suicide.
Yeah, I don't belong here. I can't do this. I had a bad thought. Oh, this guy's driving me crazy. I want to hurt him, but I can't hurt him because...
So speaking from personal experience, do you think maybe that's part of the reason that you would rather not have friends?
I'm social as hell.
I know you can be very social, but you have
I have a podcast where I talk to people.
Yeah, that we don't have to interact with.
No, because there's people that listen to it and they talk to me about.
Well, those are people who are close to you, but we have yet to hear from people we don't know, and I'm just asking, from as being your wife and like knowing you and how you can be around others. Sometimes you have if you don't know our neighbors, you don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we never met our neighbors, it wouldn't bother you unless they're trying to break in, type of thing. That's the only thing you care about is, are they trying to hurt us or not? Is that normal?
Yeah.
Or is that like a military thing because you don't trust anybody? It's hard to trust people.
How can you trust people? How are you asking me? How are you demanding for me to trust people?
I'm not demanding.
Yeah, you are, because you're bringing it up, so it's kind of like a demand from me right now. If everything we see on TV, like, it's just simple. We go to Netflix. Yeah. How many freaking murder mystery shows are in there?
Yeah, a lot these days.
How many fucking murder podcasts are there?
Not many.
Right? Mm-hmm. How many? And everything, they'll come out to the same. It was a neighbor, or it was a fucking church leader, or it was a best friend, or it was whatever. Or it was a family, or an uncle, or a dad, or whatever. It's always somebody close that knows enough about you that they end up seeing what your weaknesses are, and they try to exploit you and take advantage of you.
Or your family, or your children.
You become a victim.
Yeah.
So then how do you prepare yourself to not become a victim and get your family not to become a victim? Mm-hmm. You try to stay away from people, because in reality, if you don't trust them, if you can't trust them, like, you should know the people are in your inner circle and who you can and can't trust, right?
Yeah.
So then why would I want to know people around me if I don't need them? If what I am and what I do is done by me, by myself, that's fine. If I meet them and I talk to them and we end up having a relationship, then that's fine. But it's kind of like a 50-50 relationship, right? It's like, if they're willing to know you, then, they'll wave. They'll say hi. I wave to all the neighbors. I come out, I'll wave to them. I'm a nice guy. I'll wave. Everybody gets 3 chances. If I greet you and I welcome you and whatever, and you dismiss me 3 times, then I'm done. Our relationship, you already let me know more than once that you really don't care to have a relationship with me. Mm-hmm. So that's fine by me. If they talk to me, I'll talk back to them. I'll be courteous, manners, fine. But, it goes the same way.
But I just think sometimes you have like you said, I understand that the world is nuts and you don't know who you can and can't trust. And we've had a personal experience, which I believe we've talked about previously, where someone in an inner circle betrayed a group of friends, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
I didn't even think about that.
So I understand that you can't trust even your inner circle at times.
And it makes it even harder for me. But let's think about it. It's going to stick to me. That old man that was lost in the streets walking around with books and everything.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
None of our neighbors ever cared to come out or talk to him or see what was wrong with him, whatever.
That's true.
Whatever, right? And what did we do? Immediately. Hey, how you doing? Hey, have a seat. Are you thirsty? Yeah. How can we help you? What's your name?
Like
how old are you? You want some coffee? Do you like sugar? Do you like honey? Tell me what's up. Any information that I can get. And when the story started changing, what did I do? Call the cops.
Yeah.
We need help.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I sat there with the old man, and we had a conversation until help showed up.
Yeah.
Then paramedics showed up.
That was the craziest scene ever.
Right?
Got the paramedics, fire trucks, and the sheriff all in our yard.
And this was an older gentleman.
All for one older man.
Suffering from mental health.
Yes, from dementia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. His stories kept on changing. He remembered his name. He gave me weird random stories. And out of everything, I just concentrated on what was consistent. I looked for badges. I looked for bruises. I looked for everything. That was part of my military training kicking in. Mm-hmm. Knowing how to talk to him, what to look for, what stories match, what didn't. Right? Mm-hmm. When the sheriff's department showed up, I gave him all the info that I had. The sheriff was on it with what I gave him. He found out where he was supposed to be, and took care of him, right? Mm-hmm. I think there was only like one fire department guy that was like pretty nice, pretty cool. Yeah. And there was other guys that were just kicking on the back that you can tell they were new.
Yeah.
Right? And there was another two there was a whole bunch of people.
It was a lot of people in our yard.
Yeah.
I think our neighbors, and then I got the one phone call from the one neighbor, what's going on at the house?
But then all the neighbors were outside. All of a sudden they're looking. They're like, oh.
Yeah, wondering what happened when they weren't willing to assist the old man in the first place.
Yeah, right?
And
did the old man attack them? Did he have a heart attack? Oh, now there's an ambulance there. Oh, no, now the fire department's there. Oh, goodness, what's going on, right?
Yeah. And this is an older gentleman who is having, many, many people eventually end up here, right? They end up with dementia and Alzheimer's, and it ranges anywhere from, early. Some people get it on very early, and some people don't experience it too much later in life. So
they were not willing to, so that's what we're getting at. So the neighbors weren't willing to help out a person in need.
But we were.
Yeah. Why would I even want to have a relationship with them?
I know. Okay. Well, and I guess, I don't know. It's just sometimes I feel that because of whatever you experienced in the military, you definitely came back different. You know that. You always say you came back very different. And
I think it depends on what kind of jobs you do.
Maybe a little jaded with life and people. Maybe people.
I don't know. I just came back older.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen a lot of shit in my life, so it wasn't like, oh, I was exposed to something horrible. I mean, it was cakewalk for me.
Do you think it was worse when you were younger? Life was worse?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, and maybe that's why it didn't affect you the way it affects others.
No, for me, that was easy. That was easy. It was like meals and clothes, and I don't have to worry about bills or anything. You're paid. I don't get paid enough. I mean, it's not gonna last me, but
well, it's also because you were young and liked to spend money.
Not really, but no, it was fine. I mean, I think it also has to do with what kind of jobs you do. It depends what you see and what you live, but I don't know how I came back different. I mean, it made me dislike people more, trust people less. Yeah, most definitely. I can say that. But I'm a loving person. I care for people. I want everybody to succeed. But it's like I always say, there's something about me that just comes across the wrong way. Or maybe it's my cockiness, or maybe it's my voice or my demeanor, that a lot of people just are intimidated by it or dislike me for it, and then they get to know me and they're like, man, it's kind of wrong about you. But I mean, yeah, and that's the other thing, right? And we always joke about that. I'm never sugarcoat stuff. I tell them bluntly what's going on, and then people get hurt.
Yeah, the conversation we had with the eldest, or the 21-year-old, right? She was getting offended by some of your joking today.
Oh, yeah. But no, yeah, but so I mean the mental on the mental aspect of it, like we can't control it. We don't know. We don't know what causes this. We can all have ideas, right? And there's
but there's
certain things that
gazillion different psychological
yeah,
studies out there that are trying to figure out how to pinpoint and not just pinpoint, because I think they have a good grasp on where a lot of these psychological traumas come from. It's a matter of how to treat them to help those suffering of psychological issues to live good lives, to live better lives than what they're living, to be able to let go of those demons or get rid of those demons so that they can move on with their lives and not be stuck in whatever they're in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know how to fix people or how to help. Like, there's people that do get that mental health, right?
Yeah.
I hear it doesn't help. Like it's not enough for them.
I hear commercials when I'm listening to different podcasts about, this mental health, like these therapy online phone call sessions where you don't have to go in person anymore.
Right.
Do you think that's better for some people?
You know what? Okay. I used to think that stuff didn't work. Like, I'll be honest.
I know. I'm well aware because I think we talked about going to couples therapy a long time ago. You don't remember?
Yeah. So the reason why I believe in it is because if it gets to that point, it's done.
Well, no, you used to tell me we can fix everything ourselves.
Yeah, because if we need somebody else to help us, we're just forcing something to try to work.
Well, but then how is that different? The
inevitable is that it's supposed to be done.
Then how is that different than your own mental health?
Because you're trying to add another person to the equation. That's just different. Just people will never think the same. There are things that you can agree with, but it's just two different attitudes, two different personalities, two different upbringing.
Okay.
You can try to make it work, right?
Okay.
We already do that. Everybody always tries to make it work, but the moment that you're trying to add a doctor to it, a psychiatrist to it, to help you to it, it's just, you're wasting money for something that I think in my mind is just doomed.
But a lot of people think, I'm not saying, we're not at that point. We, long time ago, when we first got together, when we were first starting a family, this was something that I talked about, right? And we got through it without the therapy, right? Now you're saying that for one person going through mental health issues, it could be beneficial.
Yeah. So where I was going with it before it went to that path, before you went and touched on couples therapy, I was going to say something like, I think it is helpful when you're talking about online and calling or whatever, right? I've experienced it recently in my life where I get really frustrated and I get really angry, and it's all work related, right? Mm-hmm. And I end up sitting down and having a conversation with my friend at work or my supervisor. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, I come down. It helps me out.
So talking about it helps.
Yeah, you're letting something out, right? Mm-hmm. Some frustration or some anger. You're letting it out. You're not boxing it in. It's not eating you. It's not messing with your mind. You're not overthinking scenarios. If what if it's this? What if it's that? What if I do this? What if I do that? Right? It's something simple. It's work related, which is stuff that comes and goes. Mm-hmm. It's work. It's not the end of the world. It affects you because it's your life or whatever. It's part of that your life at that moment. So you're trying to solve it. You're trying to keep the peace or whatever. But it helps, right? It's not eating you. The moments that I've talked and I've said it out, and then I hear something that maybe I was thinking or something that's the opposite. Yeah, then you're like, okay, all right. But then I start realizing it was like, man, I think I was overreacting a little too much. I feel a little bit better now. And I've calmed down. So if that's just something that's work related, and I think that it's something that really doesn't matter, that it's so trivial, so dumb, I can only imagine for, issues that you might have in your personal life, and there's a doctor that you can talk to, and it can help you get through it. or find the root of the cause of why you are in a certain way or see things in a certain way, right? Mm-hmm. So, like you're saying, I don't trust the neighbors or whatever. Now, somebody might be like, oh, well, he probably had an issue with a neighbor. Or maybe a neighbor backstabbed them or tried to hurt them or do something. That might be his issue with the neighbors. No, that never happened to me. Mm-hmm. But it's just, I'm just saying this. As human beings, like sometimes some people just don't want to talk to other people. Have I had neighbors that I liked and I got along with, and then all of a sudden they just start talking to us? I mean,
yes, we have.
It happened recently. Did it hurt? Yeah.
Because we really liked them.
Yeah, I gave them unconditional love. I care for them.
Yeah.
They were great people.
We felt that they were great people.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden we just got dropped. Like we got dumped.
What did we say?
Yeah. So, but it's like, well, it was a friendship that did its purpose for the time being, and things.
Do you think it's because we moved?
Yeah. It doesn't matter, but it's like, so it happens.
Mm-hmm. But you're saying ultimately though that talking to someone, whether it be in person,
look at the podcast.
Yeah, that's. I mean, the point.
I've shared shit that I never thought I would talk to other people that I've only shared with you, right? Mm-hmm. I talked about some of my stuff, and then something. It's like a therapy. Do you feel
better for it?
At times I do. At times I feel weak because I put out like weakness or secrets
about information.
Me. Yeah, but then at the same time I think about like, well, maybe I'll help somebody else. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a good thing, right? Maybe this is my mental health thing.
I mean, that's what we say. This is our couples therapy, right? We didn't go to an actual therapist for couples therapy. We've decided we're going to talk and figure things out, and that's what we've always done. Yeah,
from what I've heard and from what I've seen when you talk about couples therapies, it's like usually what couples end up to, they're like they're not even on a straw, they're done. They're like usually or holding on to the last straw. Yeah,
but when I was talking earlier about couples therapy, so your demons, right? We were saying we're different, right? People are different. Couples, each individual is their own individual, right? And they come together. So is a man's mental health someone who has seen things, been through things, completely on the opposite spectrum than their spouse, okay? And he brings all that pain into the relationship, even not even trying, right? He doesn't want to, but it's back there and it comes out every now and then. In doing that, the traumas from his childhood, the traumas from whatever he experienced growing up until that point where he's in that relationship with that person, why would couples therapy not be beneficial if regular therapy is? Why would couples therapy not be? Because maybe she needs to understand where he's coming from. Couldn't a doctor, just as the doctor would help guide the man with his mental issues, help guide his partner to help to understand him better?
Well, now that you put it that way, maybe. Okay, I see your point. I'll say correct it.
Or vice versa. Like maybe his demons are, he never gives it a chance to listen to her side or see it from her side.
The funny thing about that is that I'm pretty sure at one time somebody has said, well, I don't like that because of this, this, and that. And no, whoever it is, man or woman, is on the other side is like, no, you're wrong. This is not like that, and it's not like this, and it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't see things like that, and blah, blah. And then you go to a therapist, and the therapist literally says the same thing from the first person's point of view. Well, it's like that because of this, that, and that. Oh, wow. Then the other person's like, what the heck?
I said the same thing.
I said the same thing, and you argued and said this and that. It's like, see, I can't talk to him or her. Look at how they're getting. See, this is what always, and they don't see that maybe the root cause is them all along because they have to have the last word or they're always right. And that person doesn't know what they're talking about. And then when the doctor agrees with the other one, then it starts actually alienating the couples even more sometimes.
I don't know. Maybe since we've never been through that, I don't know that that's how it works. I mean, I think the whole idea behind any type of therapy is that you're getting to the root of the problem, no matter who it is, no matter where it came from.
Well, yeah, I guess. But so let me ask you another one.
Okay.
How is it that, let's say men and women, right? We're talking about men's health and how sometimes, like, men like to keep it in.
Yeah.
And let's just hold on to it, right? And then women, I mean, there's women also going through it, right? Because if their partners are side by side, right? Like in a couple, right? Mm-hmm. And the women are also going through the same stuff, the same problems, the same issues, monetary, family, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. What is it that most of the times, like you were saying in your cases, the women are not the ones that result killing the family or doing the crazy stuff that the men were doing? Because I looked at the statistics of men and women in prison, and oh my goodness, it's ridiculous. Yeah, you were right.
Way more men in prison.
Yeah, like let's just say for random, like 8,000 women are in prison, small number, and there's like 136,000 of men in prison. You know? You're like, so, damn, that's a big difference.
Men suffer from more mental health issues than women.
Yeah. So, and then is it true that that they are the ones that hold it all inside, and that's why they end up imploding like that and causing them to do something, or are we more animalistic, that we are more savages and more
I think that has a huge part to do with it. Like men are more instinctual. Men are more they want quick gratification in general with life. There's a lot of men out there. I mean, gosh, our kids are prime examples of this, right? Because they're we're a teenager, right? He's got that whole I want it and I want it now attitude. Like, I want to be a certain way attitude. But he's still like a little animal, right? He's still learning to be a man. But he's also not willing to do all the work that he needs to do to get that, right? So that's maybe part of his what generation are we in now? I have no idea what generation it is right now, but whatever this current generation is seems to be that I want it now, but I'm not willing to do what I need to do to get it. So
is that our fault because we give him stuff?
Is it
family's fault because they gave him everything when he was a kid?
Well, this is all part of the mental health that we're creating for our children, right? So, and these are boys. These are men we're trying to raise. Right. So what is it about your mental health or my mental health that is going to affect their mental health? How messed up or not messed up are we that we are messing up or not messing up our kids? And I think every parent has to face that at some point. Like all these men that are in jail, right, versus the women, and you're saying how come the women aren't the ones murdering their families? I mean, there's definitely cases out there where the women do it, but women are more likely to do that out of jealousy or despair, like, oh, my husband doesn't love us, and, so that my kids don't suffer, I'm going to take them out, Or there's been cases where, the women kill their children because that man won't love me if I have children. So they take out their children. So those are rare. They're far in between those cases compared to what men do. But it does exist. But I think women in general don't do it because our purpose is to raise our children. It's like so ingrained in us that we're less likely to abandon a family, our children, than a man will.
So you want to know something funny? The part of the reason why I asked that, because we're concentrating on men's health, but when I was trying to look up some little stuff about it, there's a higher percentage of women that suffer more from mental health than men.
Okay, well, all right.
It's not a lot, but it's
I think it's diagnosed because, think about it. If you think about the original, back in the day before there was like a huge understanding of mental health in general, anytime a woman had a fit about anything, she was deemed a lunatic.
But I'm not talking about that statistics. I'm talking about current statistics, recent statistics.
So the recent statistics show that more. Okay. So this goes back to then the personality traits that we were talking about earlier, where women are 60% more likely than men to be anxious and suffer from stress, which is all part of that negative aspect of mental health, because women are always worrying. Women are always, a million different things on their plate. And I understand men suffer from the same thing. And it's an excellent question then what you're asking about why, if women have all these stressors in their life, why are they not the ones committing all these horrible things or committing suicide? I think it's just part of being a woman and in their nature. It's how they're wired. They're wired to have to take care of their kids. Okay, it's like, yes, I have all this stress, but I created these children. I carried them in my womb, and it's my job to make sure they stay alive. That whole mama bear.
Right. Okay, so then we're talking about that, right? So, and from the statistics I was looking at, women have always been higher than men since like the 70s. Okay. But at the same time, it's funny to me, like I'm thinking about it in another way, right? We're talking about men, right? And then you're talking about like the men that end up killing their families, or they're end up doing some crazy serial killer stuff, right?
Yeah.
So isn't it funny how way back then, like by way back then, I'm talking 70s, 60s,
so long ago,
80s, whatever.
Older than us,
right?
Or as old as us, as old as us.
Partially 11, some of those. Isn't it funny how? Well, not funny, but you know what I mean.
Interesting.
Yeah. I forgot where I was going with this. I find it interesting that people make fun or they give a hard time to the man from those eras, right? But they kept it all inside, and it was all heart love, right? And it was tough love. They were tough. They were exterior. They were rugged. They were men, right? And then they do that with their kids, and sometimes they're like, when they heard about cases like that, right? What was their immediate response? I got to be a protector. I have to have my family ready. I have to, I have to be here for them. I have to prep them. I have to teach them. They need to learn what to do, how to handle stuff, in case I'm not around. So they don't become victims, right? So they end up probably instilling more tougher love, or being much harder at the other males in the house. And they also, when they hear about these people that have done this stuff, they're like, he's weak. He's weak. He did that for weak reasons. That's not a real man, right? That was usually the reaction, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I had a nervous breakdown, or I did horrible things. What a puss, right? So isn't it funny that now, as the years keep on going, it seems to be bigger and bigger and more and more and more and more, right? And we were talking about hard times
create good men.
Yeah.
And good men create good times. And good times create weak men.
Yeah. So it's one of those things, right, where you're doing that. So there's more and more and more weak men, and then we end up having these issues.
Yeah.
So it's that cycle, right?
Yeah. So we're in that cycle right now where I think we touched on this.
Yes, but so what I'm getting at is, a lot of those old school, now they're all grandpas or great grandpas now.
Or they're
dead. Look at, it's like I was saying, they look at men now and they're like,
that's not a man.
That's not a man.
Literally.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, okay, cool. Yeah.
But, okay, even on those... Okay, so with this current generation...
You didn't hear this with what? What? The real men, right? The farmer guys.
Oh,
the
yeah.
guys out in
That's
the ranch and everything. You never see them because everything's God, country, family.
Okay, so this is, I think... I don't know if we've talked about this or if I've brought this up before. But that all goes back to purpose.
Okay.
So, in these good times that we live in, with so many males out in the world trying to make their place in the world, they've now lost their sense of purpose. The women in the world are tougher and more independent and not needing of men to do most things for them. And so these men can't find someone to provide and protect in these easy times. And now they've lost their sense of purpose. So I believe that things are the way they are as far as for men, the weakness in a man's mind is because they have no sense of purpose. So like you were saying that the farmers, right? They have their ranches, their cattle to feed, their crops to check on. They have the schedule of things they have to do every day to survive, right? Mm-hmm. You go to tribes, I think we saw this on some episode. You go to a tribe, and in a tribe, everyone has their place. There's no time for mental weakness, no time for questioning your life's purpose or why am I here on earth, because there is food to catch, children to take care of, you know what I mean? Like everyone has a place.
Everybody has a job.
Everybody has a job within that community or within the tribe. Everyone has a purpose.
So then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And that's just my point, is that you don't find these mental health issues within those secluded tribes. You go any tribe in the world that still exists, you don't find these issues. And there's documentation, there's documentaries about this stuff out there. There's research on this where you just don't find this in those communities because everyone has a sense of purpose. And here in these big cities where life is different, simple, fast, and women are more independent and no longer in need of a man to help take care of them or walk with them in life. It's not even a matter of taking care of them, but like women aren't even willing to have a man next to them to grow old with them, right? Because what happens? Oh, I don't like the way you talk to me, so I'm done. I'm going to go find me a man who knows how to talk to me. And do they ever find that man? No. They don't. They almost never do. They end up growing. Oh, forget it. I've decided I just want to live my life alone. No, you decided you wanted to live your life alone because you couldn't find somebody who you could walk all over. For women. When there's lots of good men, or maybe they were good men who are now rotten and don't know how to be men because they were never taught to be one.
Tell them.
Well, and I'm talking, my brothers, I think I mentioned this earlier. My brothers are always saying that there's no good women out there. No good women who are willing to stay home and raise the kids. Because that's a huge job. It's a huge responsibility to be the one raising the future. It's huge. And women don't want that job.
I also think that there's some men out there that can't trust most women. Like, they might find women, but they might not see some perfection in them either. They're like, I kind of don't want you to be teaching my kids that either.
But that's part of the problem. That's all part of the problem. It's all part of this weak society.
It sounds like we're going to finally not go through overpopulation then if it continues to be like this.
Okay, but I think that all goes back to how the current generation of men have been raised.
Yeah.
Which is by women.
Okay.
And not by the men, because the men walked out or the men passed away because they came back from war, or they died during war, or they came back and committed suicide, or they just decided, I'm not dealing with this crap, and they left.
Okay.
And so now all these households over the last several decades these children have been raised by just women or bad examples of men. And now we've got this problem where men don't know how to be men. And society in general doesn't know how to accept what it means to be a man.
Yeah, I guess the definition of what a man used to be, it's not.
It's looked down on.
It's not. Yeah, it's not needed nowadays, right? According to society nowadays.
Yeah,
those type of men are not needed. They're not welcome, right?
They're not welcome.
They supposedly ruined the world, right? But it seemed to be a whole lot better.
They're the ones who created the good times that we live in now.
Yeah, and now the man today. It's funny though, because so it just made me think about something else. You see guys that are manly, and I seen a couple. There's a guy that's very manly
looking.
Yeah, looking but good looking dude.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always wearing like overalls and like lumberjack shirts or whatever, and he's splitting wood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny to see all these women like thirsting over this dude and the comments and the sexual harassment you can pretty much say on it, right? And but I bet you they would never be in a relationship with him because he was gonna be like, "Where's my coffee? Where's my breakfast? Where's my, I need this, I need that.
I expect you to do your part."
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, no, that's not what that's not what I want. So it's one of those things where we were saying that sometimes women say they want a man that they want to walk all over. I guess what you were saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then if they find them and they have them, they end up kind of like being unhappy and hating them and cheating on them because, I know you're not the provider I thought you were going to be. Yeah. I need a real man.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah, because, so the women nowadays, and again, this goes back to that meme, that post or whatever about that liberal chick who wanted to find a good man and only the conservative men were good. It is that whole idea that part of the whole mental health problem for men is that women aren't willing to accept them as the man of the house. And I understand there's extremes of it, right? So there's men who take it too far where they beat and whatever to their families or women to try to show this power over them. That's because they were raised with a bad example of what a man should be, right? So I guess there's like a fine line, right? There's a fine line at what makes a man a good man. A good man is a provider and a protector of his family without beating them.
Yeah, it's a cycle of things, though, because we can look at it that way. And it's just funny, right? Because we're all saying, like we were saying before, we don't want to create the same mistakes that our parents made, right? Or like our fathers made. As men, I don't want to be like my dad. Like, we resent our dad so much, but we ended up being pretty good people. And we're saying that we're not going to do I'll just learn from his mistakes and make sure that I don't create them, and then make sure I teach that to my son, right? And it's just a cycle that always happens because we're never going to be good enough. We're always going to do something wrong in the next generation, right? Mm-hmm. It's something that is not needed. Something that's going to get lost.
For example, okay, I think you're a good man. People who meet you think you're a good man. I have friends and stuff like that think you're a good husband. I mean, you always say, your friends wish they had a husband like me. I mean, I don't know about the whole cursing and stuff like that, but maybe. But I know that's what makes you. I'm not. A man, I know. But where's my point?
I don't know. You started thinking about my manliness and you get distracted. I got distracted. Yeah.
Did your dad beat you?
Did my dad beat me?
Like
I'm sorry.
I'm talking about bad. Ass. Yeah, well, okay. But there's a difference between whooping your ass because you were a bad kid and deserved it versus beating the living crap out of you because he was a drunk.
No, my dad.
And that's what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm talking about. So your dad, despite his faults, because we all have them.
My dad doesn't have any faults. He's a perfect man.
He was a good provider.
Specimen.
He was a good provider and he was a good protector for the most part. That didn't beat you, right? He didn't physically abuse you to where you would have had trauma from that.
Right.
Versus other men who their dads were drunks, who beat their moms on a regular basis. And if they weren't beating the mom, they were beating the kids or sexually abusing the kids, so on and so forth. Those are completely different cases that create completely different types of men with a whole different set of problems. But those are also the weak men. Yeah, not all of them, but a lot of them.
I'm sorry, my little hamster in my mind. Sometimes you touch things, and this is where we end up going in different paths, right, in our conversations, because it makes me think about something else. And right now you're saying that about that when you were talking about dads, not beating the crap out of me, right, or not sexually harassing. For some reason, I remember when it made me think of the Menendez brothers.
The Menendez brothers, yeah.
You were saying that, and it made me think about them. And then as you get them going, it made me think about another thing. So we're talking about mental health, right? And man and everything. But how come we never, like, is it selective of the people that we want to analyze and try to help, right? Because if you think about it, it made me think about a movie. And it makes me think about the writers behind the movies.
Okay.
And the authors of books. I was like, how come they don't have to see a doctor with some of the stuff that they write, that they put on paper? Because there's some pretty crazy stuff in there.
Maybe that writing that movie or whatever that piece of work is their therapy.
Yeah, I guess so. But, I mean, the shit that's being put on paper is pretty...
brutal.
Yeah. It's pretty morbid as hell, right?
It's pretty bad. I mean...
I just listened to... I was telling you about it, right?
Yeah.
I was just reading that last Jack Hart book, right? And there's a torture scene in there. And I was like, oh, man, this is...
brutal.
Wow. Like, whoa. And, you know, a good author breaks it down and talks about it. And I was like, dude, this is really good. Like, but then because of everything, because of the men's health and everything we've been talking about, and I was like, yo,
how messed up.
Yeah, how messed up can that person be to think this, to do this, to be able to
write
perform
about this?
Yeah, first I was in character. For this person to perform this, like the level of anger of protect, because he's being a protector. He's like, I need to protect my loved ones, so I need to do this. I had to turn into this necessary
monster.
evil, that the government trained, that created, so that I have to do this, right? But then at the same time, I come to the realization that this is just a fictional character, and now I was like, who's the man behind it?
Yeah,
and
who's to say that men like that really don't exist,
right?
I mean,
so
the reality is,
but then that also made me think about like a movie, and I was telling you about that movie the other day. It was like great movie, but I was only able to see it once, and I can't even watch the original, like, because I'm afraid of how more hardcore the original could be. The movie is called Old Boy,
okay,
and I forgot his name right now, Thanos.
Okay.
He was in it.
Oh, I remember. Yes.
And you're talking about, you know, a father who was rich, who was provider, but yet he molested his
children
son and his daughter, and, you know, his wife, and everybody was agreed, and it was normal.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the Menendez brothers.
Okay, yeah. If you have never seen this movie,
it's a messed up movie.
It's a messed up movie, but it's good. Like
psychologically. I mean, if you're into psychological trauma.
Yeah. See, but this is another level, right? Because I remember when we watched it, there was people with us, right? It was the first time we all watched it. It was part of my family, part of your family was there. The movie ended, I was like, oh my goodness, like mind blown. That was a good freaking movie. And everybody gave me that look, like, what? Like,
how messed up is your head to have liked it?
Exactly. Like, dude, like, this is a messed up movie. It's like, dude, this is a good movie. Because to me, it was a good movie because it kept me on the edge of my seat. And it was making me think. It had, like, shocking factors that I wasn't expecting. Like, it got me off guard.
Well, I think that's the same idea behind people who listen to murder mystery stuff. Right? A lot of people don't like it. Like you were telling me earlier, like, you're not comfortable, right? You were saying, I'm not comfortable talking about this stuff. I don't like this subject. Yet, because it's personal, right? You don't like it when it touches like reality, right? When it's real, but you're okay with freaking House of a Thousand Corpses. Hey. Do you know what I mean? Because to you, that's far-fetched. Like, it's like, oh, come on, that's not real. But something like this is like, oh my God, that could totally happen.
And most of those things are real. You're like, you were telling me real stories. They're not made up stories.
These are not made up stories.
This is shit that actually
found out Leatherface is based on a real story.
Oh no, I knew that.
Yeah. Anyways, okay, different idea. But it was still mental health. But like you're saying, that is a messed up movie. I mean, psychologically, it's extremely intriguing, but it's horrific to think about the reality of it. And then if anyone out there has ever heard the case of the Menendez brothers, aside from what's portrayed in media, if you actually learn, I'll post a link on the actual story for them, the way they grew up, the stuff that their dad did to them, and that their mom knew about and didn't protect her boys from, it's like a part of you is like, I guess there's like a resurgence of people trying to get them out of jail because they're like, yeah. And that's like the case I was listening to. That's what she was talking about, is that she's like, she didn't know that there was like this whole thing going on about people trying to get them out, but it's like a group of young people who are trying to get them to get tried again because they feel they can relate. They feel like, I understand what they went through because I've gone through it, or I'm going through it, or my parents are doing that to me, or someone in my family has done that to me. Or
I say this is gonna be like kind of like the Me Too movement now,
I guess, but it's for like, yeah. She was saying that. I mean,
I remember when the Menendez
horrible
thing happened. I was a kid, right? So all I remember in the beginning was that 2 kids killed their parents, and so that was all over the media.
Blamed on
right?
the fact that they were just rich kids and they were felt entitled and that they wanted the money.
And then later on, all that other stuff. I guess when they were in court, right? All that other stuff started coming out, that they were molested and they were abused.
But that was in their first trial, and then in their second trial, the same judge had all that information omitted. They were not allowed to talk about any molestation charges. Like, it's like, dads won't do that. That was the mentality. Dads don't do that. Dads don't do that to their kids, so we're not going to talk about it. So in the second trial, it was not allowed to be talked about. It was not allowed to be brought up. And if anybody did it, it was contempt of court. And it was stricken from the record.
How long have they been in jail already?
Long time.
Yeah. So
that happened in the early 90s, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, but I'm just saying, again, going back to the whole point of the fact that there are dads out there who do horrible things to their children, not just necessarily killing them, but that in doing those horrible things to their children, create horrible new adults, right?
Yeah, I know. My dad took away my Xbox for a month, I took away my cell phone. I hate the world.
We have that, and that's a reality for us now. I mean, I'm not talking about us particularly.
No,
but,
I know. Yeah, and that's why I'm making fun of it, because on social media you see stuff like that, and you see videos of kids throwing tantrums and doing this stuff, or screaming at their parents because of the punishments. We could never talk to our parents like that. We can never do anything like that.
Never. We would get slapped.
We got a punishment. We're like, yes, sir. No, ma'am. Like, as you wish.
Yeah,
we turn to whistling.
We see videos of kids talking back to their parents.
Smacking their parents. And,
coming. What was some little boy who was touch my iPad and I'm gonna come at you or something like that. You sent me that one, and then the mom's like, he's like, try me, Mom. He's like, what, 3? I don't know how old he was, but I'm like, that's ridiculous. Or that little girl who called her mom. I don't know. You send me so many random stuff, but there's so many kids out there that have no respect, or even just the fact of kids calling other adults by their first name.
Oh, that shit drives me crazy.
Right? We're all like, I am Mrs. Delgado, or I am Mrs. D. Like, I am not my name. Like, you don't know me. I'm not your friend. And I make sure our kids always call everybody else by Mrs. whatever their last name is. They're not allowed to call them Mrs. first name.
Right.
Right.
So then a lot of the upbringing also is part of the mental health then.
Yeah.
Right.
Mental health. I
know.
We're
all mental. This is a mental subject. Because I'm pretty sure there's people out there that disagree completely with us and how we're going about it. And there's people out there that are probably like, oh, no, there's no such, it's not a big deal. That's why nobody really talks about it, it's whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's guys out there that are probably, there's people that feel like we left off a lot of stuff, and we probably have.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to it.
Bouncing all over the place as conversation.
It's a big subject. It's a crucial subject. It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a delicate subject. There's so much stuff. I just entered mental health, and I got so much stuff popping up, right?
Yeah.
Statistics, stories, what was it? Key like traits to look for to know, like depression, not sleeping enough, sleeping too much, overeating, not eating enough. Like, you're like, dude, I do a lot of those things. Like, what do you mean? I'm suffering from mental, and people that are healthy, but there's a lot of stuff like that, depression, anger, outburst, crying. So it's just crazy to me. Like, I was looking for all these traits. It's a long list.
Well, like even our son, when he had his physical last year, there was like a whole questionnaire about mental health that he had to fill out before he had his physical.
Well, that's because he's a teenager.
Because
now, right?
he's a teenager.
So they want to know, like, I guess what kind of...
do you feel safe? I mean, even for me, like whenever I go to a doctor's appointment, do you feel safe in your house? It's like...
They must listen to the podcast and think I'm an abusive husband.
It's not to make light of it or make fun of it, because clearly they're asking these questions because there's many people out there who don't feel safe in their homes, right? There's many women who don't feel safe with their husbands. There's many children who don't feel safe with their dads, and not just husbands, it can be boyfriends. And what is it about the men's mental health that's ruining their households?
Okay, hold on real quick, all right? Mm-hmm. This is on the NINIM website?
Yeah, the National
Institute of Men's Health.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
men and mental health. I guess
Okay.
is the website.
Okay.
The symptoms for mental disorders in men, okay? But, celebrating 75 years, okay. This is the actual website, right, people? It says, I'm going to read it. It says, what are the symptoms of mental disorders in men? Men and women can develop the most sane mental disorders and conditions, but they may experience different symptoms. Some common symptoms include, okay, are you ready? Mm-hmm. All right, check this out. Anger, irritability. Thank you. English is my second language. Or aggressiveness, okay? I think I failed already on
all three right there.
Number 2, noticeable changes in mood, energy level, or appetite.
Okay, I think you've also failed on those two.
All right. Difficulty sleeping or sleeping too much.
Difficulty sleeping.
Damn, I failed that one too. All right. Difficulty concentrating, feeling restless, or on the edge.
I don't know.
I think I'm all right.
You're okay on that one.
Increased worry or feeling stressed.
Yeah, you do feel that one.
Misuse of alcohol, drugs, or both.
You don't do that.
Okay. Persistent sadness or feelings of hopelessness.
Do you feel that way?
Nah. Feeling flat or having trouble feeling positive emotions.
That's not true. Nah. That's not you.
Engaging in high-risk activities.
Oh, because you like to drive fast?
I want to go fast, mama. I like motorcycles and video games and shooting guns.
I wonder. So does playing video games and wanting to kill people on video games count?
It's a trigger. Maybe. Maybe. Digitally want to kill digital avatars. Mm-hmm. As long as it's not like the movie game.
Because, most people who play video games and those types
That's how they escape, yeah.
Are men.
Well, they go and escape, yeah. All right, where was I? Hold on. Okay, aches, headaches, or digestive problems without a clear cause. Yeah, okay. I got a lot of aches.
That's stress. That's stress in general.
Obsessive thinking or compulsive behavior.
And that's women in general.
Thoughts or behaviors that interfere with work, family, or social life.
Like you not wanting to go to social events with family.
Unusual thinking on behaviors that concern other people.
Like wanting to kill someone?
I
don't know.
Thoughts of death or suicide attempts.
Okay. Well, you haven't done any of that.
Yeah. But they actually, after listening to this, they are actually saying that mental disorders can be treated. If you're unsure of where to get help as a healthcare provider, or visit NIM's Help for Mental Illness webpage. So,
well,
definitely there's just like that. Like I just punched it in and all this popped up. There's a lot of help up there. A lot of the websites are offering help.
But ultimately, men's mental health exists because a lot of men don't think they need help. Mm-hmm. Right? They think they can handle it on their own. And the truth is they can't. So, on that note, and considering that this subject can go on forever, I guess we should just end it there. Or
Okay.
do you have like a couple last thoughts on this? I mean, there's so, psychologically speaking, it's such a broad theme.
I guess the one thing I can say before, and I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, you're fine.
It's more of a. I know that there's moments when I must have come across like a jerk or I made fun of stuff. I do believe in psychology. I do find it interesting, and I do believe that there could be a benefit to it, and it can help you. It can help anyone. It's helped out. I argue because of a couple of things, but like you said, you change my point of view. You make a valid point, and yeah, there could be a process that it could be beneficial for a couple also. So there's a reason why there's so many psychiatric studies and psychologists and counselors. That's why they're there. That's their job. There's a purpose. You can't mock anything, right? It might not help some people, but it might help a lot of other people. You just got to go in there with an open mind and be willing to take that first step to go in there with an open mind and try to see if there's going to be a solution that can help you through whatever issues you're going through. So at no time am I mocking or am I saying don't go get help. Definitely, if you feel or you have a loved one that needs help, then by all means help them, even if they push you away. Sometimes people need that extra tough love and that little extra drive to push them. Believe me, in my life, there's been a lot of times when I've needed to push. Luckily for me, the one person that has stuck by and has pushed me has been my wife. Aside from that, no one else has done it. Most people just let me be, and then I fall and I fail, or I just deal with it. So like she said, in our beginning of our relationships, I know it wasn't easy, and I know it was really hard because I was set on my ways. But she always pushed me to try to help or talk or get some of my shit out.
He had many demons.
And it helped me out. And it helped us out. And now we're doing pretty good. And we have our lovely family. And I've talked. And it's made me be a different person and be more open. And with the few people that are in my life that are in my circle, my friends. And I trust these guys. And I opened up to them. And they've given me good, solid advice. And we give each other that advice and that support.
You have your male support group.
Yeah, in moments, we mock, we talk trash or whatever now, but I like to think that they're there for me and I'm there for them, right? And I will also push them, and they also have significant others, and they have family that I know that they really don't need me. They have their support groups, but everybody needs someone. Everybody needs friends. Everybody needs just to get going, So definitely, if you feel sad or depressed and you need help, talk to a loved one, talk to a friend, and seek out and get that medical attention. There's nothing wrong with trying things out, we care for all of you, and we want the best for you guys.
Yeah, I agree with you that, I think in the past we were like, oh, no one needs therapy, like figure it out yourself. I think we said that in one of our first episodes, but the truth is that there are many options these days for getting assistance to help deal with your demons. That just try one, not drugs. Like the drugs really don't help people. Like the illegal drugs really don't help. They actually make it worse. That was actually something we didn't touch on, was how there is psychological studies that say that the increase in some of the mental health issues that we have these days is because of drugs. Back in the 70s, 60s and 70s, when that helped start create the weak men and the weak minds. But that's a whole different topic and subject, so we'll just leave that alone for now, or else we'll just keep talking forever. But we, of course, definitely wish you all the best in this month of men's mental health awareness, and know that you're not alone. Trust in your circle, that there's people there that love you and want the best for you. Because in the end, it's also a little self-serving, right?
Yeah.
If you're good, we're good.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Right.
So, yeah, like you said, we might have missed some stuff. We'll do more research. We'll come back to it.
Down the line.
Next year, we'll do a continuation on the subject. Maybe we'll have more education. Maybe we'll have some links or resources.
I'll definitely link some stuff that we talked about today.
More listeners also that might need more help. But yeah, thank you guys for hanging in there on this weird episode that went on pretty long. We might do.
Yeah, this is part 2.
Yeah.
So please understand that. I know it's a different format, but...
And we said it's a big subject. We can keep on going. There's so many things that we can touch. But yeah, definitely I appreciate you guys sticking around for it and standing by and let us know. And if you need to talk to someone, you need help, let us know. We'll try to see what we can do for you.
All right.
To listen, call.
Yeah. I mean, we're happy to just listen. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. And we hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your Men's Mental Health Awareness Month,
right,
which is over in a couple days.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.